Good morning, everybody in Australia and people that are joining us from overseas, like Shon Whitney. So, good morning. We are going to have a bit of a chat with Shon Whitney. Shon is the president of the lead region for Noni by NewAge. So, Shon, first of all, for people that aren't aware of what your role is, and just briefly, how long you've been with the company? It's been over 20 years, I believe.
22 years now. I actually, you can kind of say I've known about Noni and been associated with it in some way for almost 24 years now. But I was actually part of the company in 1997 when I joined as the Taiwan general manager. So, but yeah, I've been around a long time, and my role right now is president of what we call the lead region, LEAD. And that stands for Latin America, Europe, Africa, Australia, and D is for delivery or access model. And then we also do most of the expansion. We just opened Brazil. We're working on Africa. We've got a president down there, president of Africa, that we've brought on, and he's in South Africa, and he's in the process of opening all of Africa in a big way. And then we're working on Turkey, and we're working on some other markets. So yeah, that's my role. So I cover about 50% of the world's population is in our region, and so it's a big, big area. It's literally the sun never sets on our region, as they say. So it's busy and fun and great, and it's been awesome, and it's growing. It's actually the second fastest growing region in the world right now. The only one barely ahead of us by about 1 percentage point is North America, believe it or not. So North America is growing, and the second is the lead region.
We'll have to change that, Shon. We'll have to make your region number one for sure.
We're going to take them. We're going to take them,
Yeah,
and then we're going to take China and Japan, and we will be number one worldwide. So
beautiful. Dealing with all of these countries, how many languages can you speak, Shon?
I actually only speak two. I speak English and Chinese, Mandarin Chinese. So.
Mandarin Chinese, okay. Brent, I heard Brent speaking the other day on a Zoom call, and he seems to have a few up his sleeve. Is that right?
Yeah, I understand that he speaks French fairly well. He grew up kind of in the south of France. He speaks Portuguese. He spent quite a bit of time in Brazil with Coca-Cola. And then some Spanish is my understanding. I don't know if he speaks other languages, but those ones I think are his main ones that he speaks. So 3 or 4. So.
I'm always impressed with people that can speak multiple languages. I struggle with English, let alone trying to pick up another language.
Well, that's true for me too.
So obviously the merger with Noni by NewAge and Miranda happened, 18 months ago, 2 years ago.
Yeah, 18 months ago.
What is the significant difference in your eyes? You deal with Brent and Julie and David on a regular basis now. What do you see as the major difference between this new merger with NewAge?
Well, it's interesting. I think the biggest thing I would say is just the vision of what, the belief of what we can become and what's possible. And sometimes, when we're somewhat of an older company. We're 24 years old now, this month actually. So happy birthday, old Miranda. And but you kind of get into a phase of this is the way we've done things. This is what works. This is what doesn't work, and this is the only way that we can do things. And I think by bringing in some fresh eyes and fresh money and investment, and also being a public company, there is enormous pressure for us to expand and to grow and to become more. And I think Brent is a very, very optimistic person and really believes that we can achieve things, even things that you would go, well, that's pretty hard to achieve. And I remember the first meeting that we had with him and the new NewAge team was when Miranda and NewAge, we came together and we spent the day in a room, and Brent went around the room and said, how big do you think we can be within 3 years? And some people said, oh, we can be 300 million, or we can be 400 million. And Brent had written on the board 2 billion. And I think general consensus was between his 2 billion and where everybody else was, somewhere around $1 billion, $1.2 billion. And at the beginning of that, I was very skeptical. And I was like, I'm not sure we can do that in 3 years. That's a big, big climb in our industry and for an older company like us. But by the end of the meeting, he really did have me convinced. I went home and told my wife, and I said, he says we're going to get to $1 billion in 3 years. And it's funny because I actually believe him. He convinced me that we could actually do this. And the way we're going to do it is through, obviously, organic growth, massive innovation, expansion, which we have backed off on, but now we're turning back on the font. And then obviously acquisition. And so all of those combined, I actually believe we're going to be close to $1 billion, if not by the end of this year, by the end of next year. We'll be at least halfway there or more within a few days. So,
Wow.
Pretty crazy, pretty great. It's that thinking differently and thinking bigger than you might have thought before. And so, and that's been a huge change. And the same with David Van Der Veen. He was part of Amway, and he's somebody that has seen it happen. He's been part of, Amway at the time when he was there was about an $11 billion company. And so he obviously knows it can be done and believes in it. And he wants everybody to come along with us. I mean, that's something that he really wants everyone to be successful, really wants everyone to make money and to be part of this big vision and all succeed. And so I'd say that's the biggest difference. I'm not saying the founders didn't have amazing vision. They really did. But being a public company, we have the ability to do things that we never could have done as a private company. It really is amazing the difference when you have access to massive liquidity, massive investment, and those kind of things. It really opens the doors for really incredible innovation and really incredible expansion. So
I've had the pleasure of having David and Julie, and last week we had Brent on the call, and just their enthusiasm. You feel like, wow, these companies are really emotionally invested in the success of Noni by NewAge, and they really believe what they're doing, and that really motivates me. So,
and it's really interesting to see the different varying backgrounds. I mean, you've got Brent, who was a West Point guy and a University of Chicago MBA, and somebody who's worked for Coke and Nestle and Kraft, and he's been part of these $100 billion corporations that take a different view of the world, and same with David being part of Amway, and then Julie with her experience, with Rodan and Fields and others. She really has a different view of what's possible out there. And I think all of that coming together creates just a giant capability and a giant belief that almost anything can be done. And it's really different. So.
And we talked just before we started about this huge announcement that the company is making. Now, have you got any sort of dates or that we can share, or anything you can share about this announcement that you are legally allowed to say right now?
I legally can't tell you who it is, and I can say it's not just one company. So very interesting. And this will be the latest and greatest that I have heard is that we're shooting for Wednesday, July 15th to make the big announcement after the closing bell. I would know more on Monday because they're trying to finalize everything. That's why it's so complicated and it got a little bit delayed, is that there's just a lot of moving parts, a lot of people involved, and it's a pretty, in fact, I go back and I'm trying to think over the last 20 plus years if there's ever been an announcement like this. I can think of one, but it wasn't even this big, and that was, if you remember, Unicity. Before Unicity, it was Enrich International and Rexall, those two companies. Some of you might remember those two. And they came together and formed Unicity. And that was probably the biggest one I can think of in many years. There's been smaller ones, but this is pretty, it'll be startling when it's announced, I think, especially for us in the Noni world. There's some components of this that are pretty interesting. So, but yeah, what I'm hearing is Wednesday. It may or may not. I can't confirm that until it's confirmed, but that's what I'm hearing right now.
So this announcement is definitely going to make building the business easier for us, or is it just going to build our profile, or is it going to give us, what is it going to give us, this huge announcement?
Well, I think a couple of things that I would look at is number one, a lot of notoriety. I mean, there's going to be a lot of talking about us as a company and what's going on and what is the vision and where we're going. It's also going to reposition us into a very unique area that will allow us to continue to grow and really, I think, help bring in a lot of people. This other company does have operations in Australia and does fairly well there. So that'll be interesting. And then the other thing is just opportunity. There's going to be more incentives for distributors. There'll be more stock opportunities for distributors. And eventually there will be more products for distributors that you can sell, because they have, 2 or 3 really popular groups of products that are doing very, very well in Europe, in Australia, and in a few other key markets. Their top 2 that I understand, it's tied right now, is Australia and China are almost identical for them in revenue. And so they're very big in Europe. And I think some of those products will expand the universe that we have to offer people, products and opportunities. And obviously everything kind of stays the same. And so if you're just comfortable doing what you've been doing, just keep doing it. And if you find something in this that you go, hey, this looks really, really cool, and I would like to expand my business to include this, or find somebody that would be interested in this, it gives you more opportunity. And I think it's definitely going to be something that will shake the industry a little bit and be fascinating. It'll be a lot of talk about it, but I think it's going to be a positive thing in the long run for everybody. It's both incentives, products, all kinds of stuff. So.
Okay, let's talk about Australia. Okay, because we have a lot of Australians on the call.
Yes.
Talked about, and I've heard Sarah mention about the mobile app, and there is some countries that already have this technology. We need a date for Australia when this app's going to be available for us, and what that means and how we do use it to build our business.
It depends on which mobile app you're talking about, because there's actually 2 right now. There's one that we work with a company called Verb in the United States. It's for IPCs, and it's really cool. And it allows you to, do a lot of things on social media. It has a lot of assets on there, allows you to sign up, allows you to, sell, look at your reports. It's got all those main features, kind of like your back office in an app. It allows you to do all that kind of stuff. And it's pretty slick. And so there's that one that we launched in the US and a couple of other markets last year sometime. But then there's a new one, and that's why there's been a little bit of a delay in finalizing the direction of the apps, because we don't want to have 2 or 3 different apps out there doing different things. There's another one that they call Skylab Apps, which is pretty slick. It's by a company called Skylab Apps, but we've been working with them for several months now, and I think they're getting closer and closer. And I think the hope is sometime around the Global Business Summit to really introduce these things to everybody and start making them available. Now, the difference with Skylab Apps is it's designed almost as its own little social network, okay? And so everybody will come on, you and your downline will come on, and we have what we call, there'll be a lot of pieces of this, like gamification and things like that. If you don't know what gamification is, basically it's where you are rewarded for doing tasks or doing certain things. And as you do these, you get recognition and you get rewards. And then by doing those things, they drive your business. So, for example, maybe it's like, hey, hold an opportunity meeting. Great, I held this opportunity. Great, you get this, and you get this reward and this recognition. And if you do so many of them, you get bigger rewards. And all of that leads to building an activity. And so And then also it kind of links into social selling through networks, through social media networks and platforms. And so there's a lot of really cool pieces. And then it also does a lot of the typical things like, you can sign people up and you can link in and sell product, or you can create social media assets and send them and post them on your social media. And so there's a lot to this Skylab apps, and they're trialing it with a couple of key people in the US, and then once that's done, they'll roll that out. But so there's a couple of them, and we hope to clarify kind of the direction of that and then put hard dates in place, most likely by the GBS in October. So kind of stand by on that one. I don't have an exact date yet. So.
Okay. Well, as long as we've got the best app, Shon, I'm happy to wait. Okay. So if Skylab is the way to go, we're happy.
A lot, so.
Okay. Happy to wait. So you did mention the Global Business Summit, which is happening in October. What can you tell us about that summit? It goes for a couple of days, I know. Have you got any more exact dates on that? Because I would like to take a couple of days off and pencil that in.
I don't have the exact date yet, but it's going to be around the first week of October.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have the exact date yet. I think it'll run. It may be at least one full day and maybe part of another day. There will be workshops, there'll be breakouts. Some of the big things, there's going to be some huge headliners. So we're bringing some big headliners, not just from our company, but from the industry and even outside the industry. There'll be entertainment, but most of all, the content is going to be kind of defining or future defining, both in brand, in story, in product launches and products that will be coming to Australia. We just get just a tiny preview, just a teeny preview is we are working on a shot line, which will be really cool, based on Tahitian Noni with different functions. Very cool looking. There'll be a rebranding taking place that will go worldwide eventually. That looks really amazing. Just a refreshment and update. There's actually some lines that we're coming out with in directions in this plant-based direction that will be very surprising for you, and I think very cool. I think people will really dig it. And some products that will surprise you, directions that we're going that you probably never thought we could or would go. And so I don't want to give too much away, but there are multiple new brands that will be introduced. And then obviously a lot of this gets a little bit more complicated and maybe a little bit bigger with this pending merger that we're talking about. So so there may be some things from that. I think this will still be mainly just Noni-based products and new, Marinda NewAge stuff, but all of that will be factored in. So it's really going to be quite the event. I really do encourage you to jump on and be part of it, because it's big, and it's going to be, like I said, there's going to be headlining entertainment, headlining discussions and talks by the best of the best. There's going to be a lot of IPCs training. There'll be top leaders. There'll be, whole new things and directions that you would be shocked at and excited about, I hope. So some really cool stuff. Really cool stuff.
Well, I will definitely be looking forward to that. And is there a cost for this conference? Do you know?
Yeah, there will be a registration fee. It's not going to be much. I don't think it's too expensive. I think they're planning on launching that very shortly. For that, the value that you'll get, including various things you'll be given, samples you'll get, and a whole bunch of things, will far outweigh the registration cost. So it's not going to be super expensive, but will be well worth your money. So, and I think it's something you'll want to be on and see this and be part of it, because it'll be quite the spectacle and actually mean a lot to your business too. So a lot of these things are going to be, real cool directions and things that will really help to energize your business. So.
Beautiful. Well, I'll be definitely trying to get as many of my team onto that conference as possible.
That would be great.
And I'm sure that the company will be doing a lot of promotion in the coming months. So yeah, fantastic. So currently, just for people that are on the call, 10% for all online orders. Sarah just asked me to remind everyone. Yesterday I'm normally bringing Sarah up, to be honest with you, and getting her to process orders and do things for me. But yesterday, didn't even have to make a call. I just went online and signed this customer up and did everything online to get the 10% discount. So fantastic. So everyone that hasn't placed an order, go online and do it. So anything else that you can share with us, Shon, that you haven't already mentioned about Australia? One thing that we haven't talked about at all is Africa, South Africa.
Yes. Yes.
Any updates on that? You know, with COVID at the moment, it's a bit up in the air in regards to international travel. You know, there's been spikes in different areas. So let's hope they get on top of that.
Well, if you're talking about specifically the trip to Africa for the reward trip. Yes, that's still on. It's scheduled right now for the first weekend or last week in April of 2021. So our hope is that either we have a vaccine or some kind of antiviral treatment, or it just calms down by then and we're all good to travel and enjoy our lives again. So we've marked that on the calendar, and we're plowing forward. We've already reserved hotels, and these hotels are amazing. I don't know if it's called Sun City in South Africa. It's this giant resort. It has pools and you know, a whole bunch of shopping, and it's amazing. It's about 3 hours from the airport into the bush, and like kind of in the middle of nowhere is this giant resort right next to this giant game reserve. And so they'll take you out of the resort. So the nice thing is you'll go on safari. We're looking at like safaris in the morning. There's an early morning safari where you get to see the animals that are waking up. There's a nighttime or kind of an evening dusk safari. So you get to see the more nocturnal animals. And then there's even a hot air balloon safari and some really cool things. You know, we're talking about doing, there's this thing that we can take a group out, and we'll have breakfast right there in the middle of the savannah. They set it all up for you, but they have to have guards with guns that stand around you and keep you safe from any, you know, predatory lions or whatever. And it's pretty phenomenal. So this place is amazing. So it's an amazing resort. Nice thing is you get to go back at night into the resort, and you can enjoy the pool and the bar. And I think they have, you know, casinos and all kinds. It's almost like a giant cruise in the middle of the, you know, South African, Sahara. So it's amazing. Just the location's amazing, but then what you see and what you do is amazing. And so we're very excited about it. We're moving forward. Right now we have about 140 qualifiers in our region, and we're planning on about 300 total. And so if you haven't qualified yet, there's still plenty of time. You can do it and get a free plane ticket, free hotel, the whole thing, and come with us to Africa. And a trip of a lifetime. It really is. In fact, our Japanese team is so jealous that they're trying to plan one to Africa now, and our Taiwan team is jealous and wants to come with us. And so we're trying to hold people back, saying, no, this is just for our region. So we hope that we have a great representation from Australia. So.
Well, I'll be doing my best to get as many as my team. There's quite a few that have put their hand up wanting to come with me to Africa. And this announcement that's happening next week, I'm sure it's going to get people inspired and motivated and building their business. So yes, we hope to have many people qualify for this trip by the end of this year. So we've got to the end of December to qualify. Okay, it's coming up to the half hour. It's been fantastic. Thank you once again, Shon, for making yourself available.
We'll have to do this again, Tony, after the big announcement, so we can go over everything. So.
That'll be fantastic. Yes, so as soon as we have this announcement, we'll get you back on, fill in all the details of this major announcement and clarify everything and what it means. That'll be fantastic, Shon. So Perfect. Thank you once again for joining us.
Everybody.
Thanks everybody for being on the call this morning. I really appreciate it. It's exciting times. I hope you can feel it. There's something in the wind. It's going to be huge. So thanks again.
Great evening. Bye-bye. Have a good weekend.
Bye, everyone.